Angela, how do I sound? Can you hear me? Do I sound good? Okay. Chair Vesterling, we are at quorum. If you would like to start the meeting, feel free to do so.
Morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. August 28th meeting of the Cannabis Advisory Committee is now called to order. Moderator, can you please call the roll?
When I call your name, please respond present. Chair Vesterling,
Present.
Chair Payan, or I'm so sorry, Vice Chair Payan,
Present.
Member Beck, Member Broad,
Present.
Member Cohen, Member Halpern-Felcher, Member Heidelbach,
Present.
Member Huynh,
Present.
Member Levine,
Present.
Member Polson,
Present.
Member Ramirez,
Here.
Member Tupy,
Present.
Member Smith.
Present.
All right, we are at quorum.
Quorum has been established. So the second item on the agenda today is the adoption of the meeting minutes from our March meeting. And at this time, I'd like to hold for any discussion on that. Hearing none. Members, does anybody have any suggested edits or want to make a motion to approve the minutes as drafted?
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Committee Member Smith.
Second the motion.
And good morning, I'm on Bonnie Halpern-Felcher, just arrived, and I will second it. Thank you.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. So we'll now open it for public comments on this item. Moderator, can we please open the floor for comments?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 2, adoption of the March meeting minutes. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press *3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commenter. All right, last call for public comment on agenda item number 2, adoption of the March meeting minutes. Chair, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Please close public comment. And moderator, can we please call roll?
When I call, oh, I'm so sorry. Public comment for agenda item number 2, adoption of the March meeting minutes, is now closed. When I call your name, please vote yes or no. Chair Fosterling,
Yes.
Vice Chair Payan,
Yes.
Member Beck,
Yes.
Member Broad,
Yes.
Member Halpern-Felcher,
Yes.
Member Heidelbach,
Yes.
Member Huynh,
Yes.
Member Levine,
Yes.
Member Polson,
Yes.
Member Ramirez,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Tupy,
Yes.
All right, motion to adopt the March meeting minutes passes.
Thank you, members. So now moving on to agenda item number 3, general public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Commenters, just a friendly reminder that any comments for items that are coming up later on the agenda should be held until that time, please. Moderator, can we please open for public comment on the items not on the agenda?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 3, items not on the agenda. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press star 3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commenter. Craig, Appleglow Farms, I see that your hand is raised. You are now unmuted.
Good morning. Craig Johnson, Alpenglow Farms, Southern Humboldt. I'm calling in from our legacy homestead here located in the mountains of Southern Humboldt. We hold a 10,000 square foot cultivation license here. I feel it is important to frame it in that sense that this is our homestead and we hold a license on it. I'm also calling in from our kitchen table where our children do homework. I'll work on my metric and we will have family meals. This is all coming from a point of set and setting. I think it's important to understand, mainly I'm speaking to director and overseer of the DCC to understand and have a perspective of where we're coming from. And that's a point of passion. You could say almost everyone on this call keeps showing up with a passion and a desire to create something and to leave something for the past to understand what we did and for the future to grow on and build on. We've been all working very diligently, showing up and giving public comment, having meetings prior to delivering our comments, and really trying to form a better cannabis environment here in California. Please, please keep listening and leave a legacy behind
30
that we can be
seconds.
proud of. We have brought forward some very small details like tagging, having batch tagging for a group of plants. And we did all that work for a long time and we don't see any results from that. And that becomes disheartening. So please, let's stay in it. Let's get some of these things across the finish line so we can have actionable items brought down to the farms and other businesses. And let's.
Thank you for your comment. Elise Jackson, you are now unmuted.
And I am a small legacy farmer in Nevada County with Sierra Kind. I would like to speak on the individual plant tagging regulations. It was passed into law in October 2023 that the DCC needs to get it together to remove individual plant tagging requirements. I have a 10,000 square foot greenhouse, like micro business license, in addition to a 5,000 square foot medical license for outdoor. I go through almost 10,000 plant tags per year. It is a gross waste of money, resources, and simply trash. In addition, metric does not work. You can only batch something about like 115 plants at one time. When I harvest a greenhouse, I harvest a minimum of 350 plants at one time. There should be one tag for those 350 plants that I can then input into metric with the wet weight. As it stands, it is, again, a waste of time and money. We are a small family farm with myself, my husband, my father, and one part-time employee. Tagging a plant, even if you are magically able to get it down to 30 seconds per plant, is a gross misuse of labor when we are on such a tight budget as it is. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anne Riddle, you are now unmuted.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. It's always kind of confusing to raise your hand. You're never sure what's going to happen. I'm calling on behalf of the legislative committee associated with my PTA. We are concerned that we feel that the cannabis industry has broken trust with us regarding the work that you would do to safeguard our young people, and that you had an obligation to go forward with the tax increase to 19% as you agreed, and to backpedal now shows us that you never were serious about helping us protect our young people, and actually our young adults, those 25 and under are who I'm classifying. This is the group of our young people that we're most concerned about. Their daily rate use of marijuana has skyrocketed, and along with that, so has their mental health issues. And for those of us who see what that looks like in our families, it's been a horrific experience. So we ask you to back off from opposing AB 564 and let it go through. Let that rate stay in effect. It will show that you respect the arrangements that you
30
made
seconds.
originally, and that you understand what we here on the ground raising children and young adults face. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie H., you are now unmuted.
Good morning. I agree that many of us come here as a result of our passion, but our concern from a public health perspective, I am a public health practitioner, is not for the health and sustainability of a third addictive industry, but for preventing the collateral damage that has been documented. It is demoralizing that the promises made in an effort to decriminalize and permit marijuana businesses to get that legislation passed have been not only been ignored, but they've been undermined completely in many cases. The California Department of Cannabis Control instead has become an arm of the industry itself. They're woefully impotent at making any enforcement, at doing any enforcement on the industry. And in fact, when there is a situation where they have found contaminated products, they allow the business to continue to sell them out so that they won't be out any fiscal losses. Prop 64 said that 60% shall be of the taxes should be deposited in the youth education, prevention, early intervention, and treatment, and dispersed by the controller of the State Department of Healthcare Services for programs for youth, designed to educate
30
about
seconds.
and prevent substance use disorders, to prevent the harms from substance abuse. We do not see that happening. The public's concerns are all but ignored. I would hope that, and I agree, that AB 564 is a perfect opportunity to keep a promise that was made and codified into law. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Abe, you are now unmuted. Oops. Abe, it looks like you went back on mute. Let me try one more time.
Okay. Hello? Sorry.
Hello. Yep, coming in loud and
Yeah,
clear.
I'm here to talk and support SB 1064. Um we're looking to the transition to combined license should be simple, like a scientific amendment. A 1064 will help us and dismiss the need to have shared drying spaces, processing and storage, other issues with nurseries with mother plants. A definitely a bonus, and as a cultivator that has 5 licenses, I would definitely would like that combination into one license. Also, there's no we should also not limit any activity under this combined license, like a micro business either. And we're definitely looking for the option to have one single metric account instead of having 5 different ones. It's just over a burden to have so many accounts, and definitely to reduce the license fee. It In order for me to have 5 licenses, it cost me $20,000 a year. And if we can reduce that even by a quarter, up to 50%, that would be huge for
30 seconds.
us. Thank you.
Hi, Abe. This is Jacqueline Campion. I'm the Deputy Director of Policy and Research at the DCC. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your comments. And I also wanted to remind everyone tuning in that we do have SB 1064 Combined Activities License coming up on the agenda just a little bit later. It is item number 5. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Catherine, you are now unmuted.
I'm also on the board of the Trinity County Ag Alliance. I'm shocked that hasn't been much more from DCC on the recent bad actors down south. There's a lot of big licensed operators who are repeatedly on your recall list. Labor issues. I mean, we've seen all this stuff in the news, and I would love a strong message from DCC that that's not acceptable. You have a lot of small farmers doing everything right, being crushed by your regulations, about to be further crushed, continuing to be crushed by these taxes. And you have so many people doing everything right. And the big guys who aren't, it just seems like nobody cares. And they just get to release contaminated product over and over and over. It gets recalled. So what? People are exposed to terrible chemicals, bad product, labor violations, unaccompanied, undocumented minors. It's rather horrifying. And to see California cannabis on the national news for that is so discouraging when you have so many people working so hard to do everything right who get absolutely nothing in the way of support or consideration from the DCC. So, it looks like the DCC is really in love with giant farms who are terrible actors, and you could make it not look that way if you wanted to, because you could take away their
30
licenses.
seconds.
You could take away their licenses. If you pop hot for illegal pesticides that are banned in the state of California once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, you don't have a license anymore. Let's shut these operators down and support the people that are doing things right and giving clean products to consumers. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul and Susan, you are now unmuted. You each have 2 minutes for public comment.
And I'm sharing the computer with my partner, Susan, who would like to speak after me, if that's okay. How many times have we heard, that's above my pay grade? I'm not paid to think. I'm just following the orders. I'm talking about the regulations that were put together for veterinary cannabis. In the definitions, they talk about products for animal consumption under adult use, but there's no mention of it under medical. I think we can all agree that there's no such thing as recreational for animals. Further, they're talking about 1 milligram per package. Does anyone know that that's impossible to do? You can have isolates if you like, but you're talking about cannabis. You're not talking about hemp. You're not talking about fractionating and creating a Franken medicine. What you're talking about is making a medicine for an animal. Everything with a spine has an endocannabinoid system. The animals get the same illnesses as human beings. They have the same endocannabinoid system. But to have it just as adult use for recreational and then limit it to 1 milligram per package,
30 seconds.
I'd love to know who the Einstein was that came up with that. I'd love to have a long talk with him. So with that, I'd like to pass it on and maybe reset the clock so that my partner Susan could speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. You have 2 minutes to speak as well.
Thank you very much. Regarding the 1 milligram of THC per package, as horticulturalists for several decades, we know that the restriction of 1 milligram of THC per package for pet medicine is absolutely contrary to our contemporary understanding of what's called the entourage effect. The entourage effect, the synergy between minor and major cannabinoids, is essential for optimum effect of the completed medicine. The limit of 1 milligram of THC can only foster the creating of isolates, which is completely contrary to our contemporary understanding of the best scientific process. As far as animal use, having cannabis medicine for animals under adult use is irresponsible. It sends a dangerous message, and it is animal abuse. We understand that adults are the pet parents, but the intention here is for medical, so let's get it right from the start. Thank you very, very much for hearing our comments, and thank you for your work.
Thank you. Anthony Avalos, you are now unmuted.
Everybody, my name is Anthony Avalos. I am a co-founder of the Council of Equity Advocacy San Diego. And as I listen to some of the calls that have already come in, my heart goes out to everybody who's spoken. I just want to identify and uplift a comment that was made regarding the DCC's enforcement of bad actors in the spaces. It is a poorly kept secret that the sustainable model currently in California is one that brands like Off the Charts and Stizzy are utilizing, both recreational license market and alternative methodologies. I've personally, as a survivor of the war on drugs, seen Stizzy come into San Diego and completely disrupt genuine efforts to create social equity programs that do more than just exacerbate harm from the war on drugs, as what the majority of social equity programs have done. At this point, I'm calling DCC and saying I'm going to hold you accountable for the recognition that every social equity program put up has harmed the participants, and that some of these same actors that are causing harm in the licensed market are the same actors that
30
are
seconds.
sabotaging our potential for healing. DCC, if you're going to do anything, honor cannabis's demand to heal and stop the harm. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky Rapp, you are now unmuted.
Oh, my name is Becky Rapp, and I come here today as I'm deeply concerned that marijuana businesses are still permitted to use signage and branding with names and images like cookies. This is the same tactic that hooked kids on flavored tobacco, using products that sound fun, harmless, or like a snack. It's a simple thing to fix and to prohibit child appealing signage. And it would significantly benefit the health and safety of children and youth across California. marijuana is an adult use product and it should never be advertised in ways that blur those lines to entice young people. So I urge the Department of Cannabis Control to close this loophole and implement clear, common sense restrictions on signage that mimic any kind of food, candy, or child flavored products. Thank you for this.
Thank you. J, you are now unmuted. Jay, it looks like we are having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I'm going to put your hand down for the moment and feel free to raise your hand at a later point and we'll try again. Louise Rivera, you are now unmuted.
I'm a licensed operator here in Los Angeles. Also work with Social Equity LA, a nonprofit organization that supports minority owners. I'm just calling to, ask for you guys' help. Here in LA, we have our fees were increased. You guys have increased the excise tax. And as a social equity owner, there's no way for us to survive and thrive in this environment, which the program, really was set up to be. Also, I asked that you guys extend or look at ways to expand the vendor compensation program. I believe it may be ending, or if there's a way to increase that to 50% rather than 20% of the excise collected that we are able to compensate or get compensated for. Ultimately, just asking for you guys to better improve the social equity program and work better with the cities. We also have had issues with grant funds being dispersed to us, and ask for you guys to do what you can so that the cities are mandated to give direct benefits and financial assistance to the operators rather than masquerade them with fees increases and payments directly to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Whitlow, you are now unmuted.
Hello, from Dicama Consulting. I'd like to make a couple comments for future topics for the CAC. I'd like the CAC to review the methodologies that the DCC uses to evaluate testing laboratories. This would include what their criteria are and what the criteria the DCC uses to evaluate the laboratories, method validations, and laboratory audits. These criteria should be public or at least shared with the laboratories so they know what they're being evaluated on. Second, could the CAC make recommendations to the DCC on additional testing detection for contaminants associated with chemical synthesis of THC from hemp? They could also look into the action limits that would be set for these tests or how they should be determined. And finally, why can't metric detect diversion and inversion? I think the CAC should take a look at that and see if there's a way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Whitlow. This is Jacqueline Campion again. I just wanted to remind commenters we do have future agenda items, recommendations for future agenda items coming up on the agenda later on item number 6. Thank you.
Alexandria, you are now unmuted.
My name is Alexandria, and I'm a current operator as a manufacturer and distributor in California. And I wanted to exercise my voice and let you know that there are definitely some issues that have been happening in the industry, which I'm sure you're well aware of. I think some of the main ones that I think I'd like to see is I think the state of California should definitely do more for social equity. And I think that veterans should be included in that group from a state level, not necessarily leaving it up to all the cities. Secondly, I feel that there should be, I think that we should bring back the markup. I think that it was lobbied for during a farm bill. I'm sorry, I don't have all of the exact, but basically when the markup got taken out, like a requirement for markups on products at a retail level, we saw a huge dip in the market, because what that did was it allowed vertically integrated businesses to pretty much offload their products, such as like Stizzy. And so they were able to sell products at cost through the retailers. Also, with that being said, there's a lot of unfair business practices that's taking place that's locking smaller mom and pop or just smaller brands out of the market, because the bigger chains are product swapping now. And so they're basically just interchanging money and products and controlling the narrative pretty much of the industry, which is allowing more bad actors to take over. And then those of us who have been operating with a higher standard are having to
30
lower
seconds.
prices, having to lower our prices to just be competitive, and they're squeezing everyone because they're not vertically integrated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madlena Narmania, apologies if I mispronounced that. You are now unmuted.
And Armania, social equity delivery service operator and owner. So I wanted to ask if it's possible if we can change some rules and regulations so delivery services are able to do curbside pickup. Since we're equipped with all security and cameras and everything, so let's say my office has a loading zone in front of the property, and we have cameras, because it's gonna help us to get like few more customers a day, since we have all these liabilities same as dispensaries, but they do deliveries, walk-in and pickups and everything. I'm not even talking about illegal services. So but we delivery services, we're just locked in one place, we cannot do anything. The only is third platforms, and it's very hard to compete there because there are all illegal services. And maybe we can come up with some kind of punishment, not just financial punishment, because financial punishment for illegal services, it's like 2 days of work money, so they can pay off and then in 2 days continue their business. So maybe come up with the jail time or something like that, because
30
yes,
seconds.
cannabis is legal in California, but everyone is forgetting it's legal only for licensed operators, not someone who's doing the job from one-bedroom apartment or from warehouse where they grow and sell their own product, not lab tested and not clean, and they poison people. So maybe we can do some changes here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last call for agenda item number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda. All right, Chair Vasterling, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Yeah, thank you everyone for your comments. And let's go ahead and close the comment section, please.
Public comment for agenda item number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda, is now closed.
Great, thank you. All right, so this brings us to the item number 4 on the agenda today. I now would like to invite Deputy Director Jacqueline Campion to give us a brief overview of the department's proposed regulatory updates that allow retail sale of cannabis goods that include multiple products packaged together.
Thanks so much, Chair Vasterling. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Campion. I'm the Deputy Director of Policy and Research here at the California Department of Cannabis Control, and here to ask for your feedback on a regulatory concept that we're considering related to multi-batch products. This might look like dual chamber or multi-chamber vapes or pre-rolls that include multiple different strains. So we're considering regulatory updates that encompass this evolving consumer demand in the marketplace to allow the retail sale of these types of cannabis goods that include multiple products packaged together. And we would love to hear input from the committee and the public. We have our proposed regulatory text that we've shared. It's on our website along with the other CAC meeting materials if anyone's looking for that. And a summary of this proposed text that is before the committee for consideration and discussion includes multi-batch products in their final form would be sold at retail and consist of no more than 3 batches of products with the same product identity, meaning the same product type. Each batch within the multi-batch product must be tested in accordance with regulatory requirements and receive its own certificate of analysis, so there must be 1 COA for each batch. And multi-batch products must adhere to per serving and per package cannabinoid content limits, regardless of the number of batches in the final form cannabis good. With that, Chair Vasterling, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Campion. I'd now like to open the floor to discussion on this topic. Members, floor is now open for discussion.
I'll probably start here since this definitely affects us directly. We have a consumption lounge, so this change would make a really big difference in the way that we make sales in the lounge, considering people come in there to try different things. And we have product SKUs like flights, and we have to sell them all individual grams. And if you were to do this, I would recommend that we don't put a cap of 3 items on this, that we would basically want to have unlimited numbers as long as it stays under the threshold of the 1,000 milligrams or the allotted amount of cannabis that you're allowed to have as per transaction. That doesn't make any sense to limit it to 3, because let me give an example of a SKU that I would like to make would be maybe 0.2 of a gram of rosin, and I'd like to have 5 different flavors so that a patron can come in and buy this, 1 gram in total, but get to taste 5 different products. As of right now, they're forced to buy a gram of each one until we can come up with a solution like this that makes sense. It just makes sense for the consumer. It makes sense for us. A lot of the consumers don't have the funds to go buy the 5 different flavors. They also would like to try them before they invest into a little larger quantity. So my recommendation would be to move forward with this, but to reduce the cap of 3 and keeping the same limits on, concentrates and total allotted flour. That's my take on it. I think this is a great idea. It does complicate things a little more from operational side, but it's a big benefit to the customer.
This is Vice Chair Payan speaking. I second what Brandon says. And when we look at it from a medicinal use patient perspective, it's also very valuable because in the 215 days, we had the option for mixing 2 different types of products. It's like, say, it was a capsule and there was an AM, PM, or also we had the option to sample. So as we know, some of our most vulnerable patients do not have the finances to make a financial gamble on trying something that may not work. Cannabis for them is expensive, especially with all of the taxes on top of it. If we could have something where they'd be able to sample multiple products to see what would work well for them, it's not quite the same as sampling, which would actually be more ideal so that they didn't have the financial expenditures, but also for multiple different types of uses, because for people who use it as their medicine, different types of cannabis, whether it's cultivar or mode of use, and I know we're not combining modes of use, is essential to create homeostasis for them and give them relief. Thank you.
Hi, this is Member Halpern Felsher. I just, as the person I think coming from the youth perspective on this committee, I just get very concerned about youth on this. And anytime that we have anything that can be tasting or sampling, regardless of the amount of THC or the amount of product that's there, that is something that we often see is encouraging young people underage to use. They like the flavors, they like the sampling, they like the novelty. So I am very concerned, and I think that if anything like this moves forward, which again, I'm very concerned about it, but that there is some really good regulation, enforcement, and control happening, so we're not encouraging continued increased youth use. So that is my perspective and concern on this.
Bonnie, I just like to mention something around youth access. I think one of the biggest things with youth access is because when you go to a dispensary, you can be an 87-year-old woman, and if you don't have an ID, you can't get in and purchase. We need to have more conversations about parents and adults securing their cannabis so that youth can't have access to it. The biggest areas for youth access are going to be in the traditional or illicit market, people keeping things out. The youth can't purchase from dispensaries.
I hear you, Sarah, and I wish that was always the case, but doing research in this area and talking to youth, there's not everybody is perfectly checking IDs. So I hear you, but we say that with tobacco 21 laws and other areas that youth access is still real, even in the retail environment, and it's not typically parents; it's often youth getting in front of the youth and things like that. So, but it's also public perception, and public perception is important for young people. So that is my concern. I totally hear what you're saying, but I'm still concerned.
I totally appreciate your concern too, because I have two young nieces, and I don't want them having access either until they're adults and they can make informed decisions for themselves. I don't want that. So I just want you to know that I appreciate where you're coming from as well.
No, and you too. And if in the ideal world, this access control was perfect, I would feel a lot better, but we know it's not. We know about fake IDs, we know about 21-year-olds buying it for 16-year-olds. And so to me, it's not directly the access, it's the increased appeal that sampling would have on young people. That's where my concern comes in on top of the access piece.
I'd be curious, is there any research suggesting that like sample packages or flavors increase use or appeal among adolescents? Or is this just a nervousness about any new kind of branding mechanism for cannabis products?
So I don't know specifically about cannabis. I can certainly look, but definitely in the tobacco and alcohol world, we do know that sampling increases appeal to young people. There is literature on that, which is why there is regulation at the federal level, whether it's successful or not because of enforcement, but there is around not having samples.
I think I should also point out now that hearing this, this is going to be such a small section of the menu on any dispensary. It's definitely not going to be the driver of, the majority of sales. So I think the impact as far as youth access might be limited just due to it's actually inconvenient for us to make these packages. The cost goes way up. So it's not something like economically that a dispensary is going to say, we're going to go combine all of our strains into one thing. So I think just take that into consideration. It will be a small impact as far as visibility goes, but I understand the concern.
No, Brandon, and thank you. And that's good for me as not being a grower or seller, coming from the side of being a developmental psychologist, a researcher for youth, that is going to be my concern. And that is good to hear, Brandon, what you were saying. I guess what I would ask and giving advice to the state is that if this goes through, that with all the concerns being stated that I have, that also it's marketing and how it's discussed. Because again, for young people, it's not just access, it is the perceptions that's out there that we have to worry about. And we know perceptions drive behavior.
It looks like we're having a little bit of a delay. Let's try that one
Okay.
more time.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think we've cleared it up.
Okay, thank you. So I'm excited by the opportunity to offer a sampler. Uh, and I think will give the opportunity to a lot of consumers to, like we've said or heard, to experiment and try the things and figure out what works for them, and to be able to have a price point that works. And I think if there's an opportunity, for retailers to innovate and provide consumers with an opportunity to do some trial and error, that we should offer that. I also had a similar question to Brandon. I didn't understand the 3 limit. I'm not sure, how we landed on the number 3. And so I'm just curious about that because I'm not sure that there's a need to limit it to 3 or not. So just kind of wanted some background on that. But I think that I'm supportive and think that there's some opportunities here to explore.
Hi, really quick. This is Jacqueline Campion again. I wanted to clarify the limit of 3 was a starting point for conversation that DCC suggested. And this is based on feedback from our metric experts, what would be most reasonable from a track and trace perspective. But this is absolutely on the table for discussion, and I really appreciate the feedback.
Can I ask for a clarification just on the multi-batch definitions here? I read through the proposed changes. So to be clear, so what we're really talking about is like a package that might have 3 different kinds of strains or, say pre-rolls or something. So 3 different kinds, or it might be like some gummies and some pre-rolls and some other form of product could all be kind of packaged together as a sampler. But we're not talking about like a pre-roll, for instance, that's made with 3 different batches that all goes into the same pre-roll or something. These are separable kind of finished products that are then just being combined into one package. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So for the pre-roll question, these would be, for the pre-roll example, 3 different pre-rolls, each one from a different batch, each one having its own COA. For an edible, for example, perhaps gummies with 3 different flavors, but it's all the same product type.
Okay, and I was trying to assess, and all of these would have theoretically COAs already attached to them. Is there a necessity, I couldn't quite suss it out, for a new round of testing for this kind of packaging, or is it
No,
all
there
is
would
going to
not
be?
be. It's primarily updates to the track and trace system as well as the way these products are sold and tracked in metric. So to make the allowance for a separate COA for each batch.
I see, thanks.
And just for clarification, this is same product type, correct? So the current proposal is not suggesting that I could do a gummy, a pre-roll, and a vape cartridge in the same packaging, correct?
Correct.
Well, my feedback just real quick is also just simply in line with what Brandon is saying, that as long as I believe that it's within the limits currently in regulations, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to have more than 3. I think that's an advantage for people to try products in smaller amounts, as Sarah had mentioned, regarding especially from medical use and also on-site consumption. I think those are all big benefits, and so that would be my recommendation or my thoughts as well. So do I hear any more? Are there any more comments from members or any other discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to move this forward without the 3 cap individual product limit on it, and then keep the rest of the language the same.
I would second that motion.
Great. So we have a motion. Would we like to go ahead and take roll on that motion?
Real quick before we vote on this motion, Chair, would you like to open up for public comment?
Oh, yes. Good idea.
All right, we are now taking public comment on the motion, and give me one moment while we capture this correctly. All right, we're now going to take public comment on agenda item number 4, multi-batch products. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning, and we will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you'd like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press *3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commenter. Abe, you are now unmuted.
Yeah, I just wanted to also support the multi-batch products. I wanted to give the members an idea of what we always thought to do. We have a brand that is co-op, and we have several farms that package under the same brand. And our dream was always to have one package that could have a strain from each farm. And so this is like a kind of a dream come true. And this is also one of these things that are definitely a benefit the small farmer directly. So this is a really good thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, even though I didn't need to get up at 6.
Anthony Avalos, you are now unmuted.
I apologize if you heard that.
No, that's okay.
And I also apologize that I'm eating some sea moss right now as I'm supposed to be giving public comment. Hold on 1 second. I apologize again. When it comes to multi-batch, I'm very much in support. And I'd like to bring up one idea that when we're talking about somebody who is now exploring the experience with cannabis, that identifies within itself a more sophisticated relationship with the cannabis plant, which is not inherent in our youth. I want to say this as kind of an assurance to our parents who are very concerned about access, that this is not something that's even going to be on their radar. As you first come into a relationship with cannabis, you're not looking for how nuanced is the experience. Secondarily, I would like to uplift the fact that while we have things in place for metric to track and trace these multi-batch units, I do want to ask the question, and I know that it can't be answered here, of exactly how much more waste will the regulation tied to multi-batch products create? And can we be extra mindful of not creating more waste through regulations, as regulations has created some of the largest amount of waste in cannabis that we've seen? Thank you.
Thank you. Becky Rapp, you are now unmuted.
Hi, yeah, this is Becky Rapp, and I'd like to speak about the risks allowing for sampling of every product of these products, these marijuana at these consumption lounges. Unlike alcohol, where drinks are standardized and served in limited sizes, cannabis products vary widely in potency, onset, and duration. Sampling multiple products in one sitting makes it nearly impossible for consumers to track their intake or understand their level of impairment. This not only increases health risks for individuals, but also raises serious concerns about public safety, especially when those individuals leave the lounge and get behind the wheel. All this does is normalize, quote, sampling, encouraging overconsumption, and definitely sends the wrong message about responsible use. For these reasons, I urge you to prohibit product sampling in lounges and prioritize safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Woodson, you are now unmuted. Karen, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, if you'd like to begin public comment, you may.
Great. Good morning. Thank you. And again, I just want to express my appreciation to DCC for using the CAC as a place to float and discuss regulation change ideas. I really do support this process. And I'm speaking today on behalf of Kiva and KSS in strong support of the idea. Wanted to raise four potential changes. One of which is just echoing the desire to lift the limit of 3 and consider something more like 7 or 10, especially for manufactured products where you might want to have 10 flavors to equal the 100 milligrams. So that would be super helpful there. I heard some discussion earlier on. I thought maybe we might go there, but I would also encourage more discussion and thought about allowing for mixed product types, especially where the COAs can be provided and easily seen. And then on the COAs, it would be great if the DCC could consider a process for allowing labs to facilitate a consolidated COA for the multi-batch products and perhaps amend that with requiring for multiple batch products the use of a QR code that links to that consolidated COA so that consumers have easy access to know exactly what the potency is for the product. But in a multi-batch situation, that packaging with the COA information could get quite cumbersome. And speaking of cumbersome packaging,
30 seconds.
I'd like to raise the issue about labeling for especially for manufactured multi-pack products, having to display all the ingredients and allergens could be a major hurdle for the labeling on smaller products. So if the formulation is the same and only the flavors differ, it would make sense to allow for a unified ingredient or nutritional panel similar to FDA practice. So encourage the DCC to look at all that information, and thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, you are now unmuted.
Catherine Sidman, Trinity County. I would just like to reflect back on some previous comments. Obviously, in a bar situation, there are lots of products with lots of different levels of alcohol. Most of them are not marked unless it's a craft beer product that talks about alcohol by volume. People are able to order flights with multiple products in small amounts. So if they want to try 3 beers, they can try 3 beers in small quantities rather than large quantities. That is less consumption. Same with cannabis. If I'd like to try 3 different rosin types rather than buying a large amount of each, I can now buy a small amount of each. I'm actually buying less cannabis for consumption and trying. I think that there are a lot of reasons to allow consumers to do this, mostly because there's nothing wrong with it. Cannabis is safe and legal when the DCC does its job and the operators are acting appropriately. And there's just no reason not to allow consumers to try things in small quantities because of the overreaching taxes. It's so expensive to try products, and committing to an entire gram of something that might cost $50 or $60 or $70 before I even try it is a lot. So having the ability to try small things is going to support everyone. And I think arguably there'll be less use. And I don't think cannabis consumers will be confused or befuddled
30
about
seconds.
their level of intoxication. I think that they are grown adults and not causing any kind of safety risk whatsoever by trying this natural product.
Thank you. Craig, Alpenglow Farms, you are now unmuted.
Thank you for the time to speak. Yes, I'm in favor of this, but we need to ask specifically for what we need. 3 is way too limiting. As it is, we're limited to 1 ounce of flower going out the front door of a retailer at the moment, and that in itself is super limiting for those of us that are actually engaging in this legal market, right? Um, so, one idea we've always had is to be able to have 8/8 represented in a package. So someone could taste multiple flavors or a taste of terroir from our farm. So this is really exciting to be able to move forward with this. And to some of the earlier commenters, I really want to go back to a bar setting, right? And alcohol. I've never seen alcohol ratios, percentages on the forefront. I've never seen a caution sign on every single glass being put over the front of a bar. You literally could walk into a grocery store or a convenience store, a corner gas station, and walk out with a shopping cart full of alcohol. There are no limits onto what you can purchase, but yet with cannabis there is. There's warnings, and we're under a microscope right now. And these good operators and dispensary owners are under a microscope, and we are taking this job seriously, and we all have children.
30
and
seconds.
We are all doing our best to do this as best we can. Now, to the earlier commenter saying that this is happening, there's fake IDs. Sounds like we need to push further on law enforcement and the DCC to do their job, because we're doing our job to its nth degree. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dominic Black, you are now unmuted. Dominic, it looks like we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time. My name is Dominic, and I'm with Infinite Cal. I definitely want to put in our support of multi-batch products, especially when it comes to things like dual vapes, multiple eighths in a package, multiple types of concentrates. Definitely in support of that. I do want to say that right now, not allowing these types of products, I've gone to a bunch of hemp shows where they already have 5-chamber vapes with 5 grams of concentrate in them. So these products are currently available not on dispensary shelves, selling types of THC that are more intoxicating and having synthetic compounds that are unknown in them that are harmful being sold to children. So the fact that we're having issue with bringing these types of products to the cannabis market where things are tested to make sure that they're clean and free of pesticides, heavy metal solvents, etc. I think that is something that we should definitely take action on. And that is all I have to add for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Elise Jackson, you are now unmuted.
Hi, good morning again. I just want to say that I agree with Brandon Levine that a cap of 3 products is just far too limiting. Canada, for instance, has a product that's the 12 J's of Christmas. I think that this, as a small farmer myself, opens up the ability to do awesome collaborations with my neighbors. Advent calendars, or I'm Jewish, so you could do 8 joints and get lit for Hanukkah. And so I feel like I also want to agree with the speaker of Kiva. I think that mixed product types, we shouldn't limit ourselves to just flour, just joints, just edibles. I love the idea of being able to give the consumer the opportunity to try both my flour and rosin made from that same batch. I think that's a really unique opportunity, and I think it only benefits the consumer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Eric Paulson, you are now unmuted.
Hello. Hi. Sorry. This is Eric Paulson. I am from Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs.
I am also putting in my support for the multi-batch products. I think it's another valuable way for consumers to have the opportunities to select what they want. I also am in support of the the requirement to have a separate COA for each product in the mixed batch product. And the reason for this is, if you were to mix all of the individual products together, if there was a contaminant in one of them, they could in effect be diluted out by the other ones. So if you're testing each one separately, you can ensure that each product you're consuming is clean and passing the requirements of the testing. The only concern I have with this is, with a extreme number of products within a batch, you may end up having smaller increments of each product. For instance, in a vape that maybe has 5 chambers but is only 1 gram, will we have enough concentrate to test out of each vape? If we don't have enough increments, it can get a little cumbersome that way. That's one of my only concerns that I'm thinking of, and I think it would be more specific to vapes.
30 seconds.
I don't know if there would be any value in having different number requirements for different product types. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Evelyn Alvarez, you are now unmuted. Evelyn, looks like we're having a bit of trouble hearing you. You want to try
Hello.
again? Hello.
Hi, Evelyn Alvarez here with Encore Labs. So yes, variety packs are sought after by consumers, and while they're not currently permissible, they already are in the market. As a licensed testing lab, we receive multiple requests each month regarding testing for these multi-packs, so we get placed in a difficult position when we have to decline these requests, especially knowing that other labs are continuing to perform the testing and the products ultimately end up on the retail shelves. So we do strongly support the development of the regulations that would put this within the regulations. The proposal to permit up to 3 separate batches in a single final form package makes sense on the testing end, but I think there needs more clarification there. Additionally, we support the requirement to test each individual batch, as always, our priority is safeguarding public health. With that said, we believe the proposed regulations should also include an update to the definition of a product batch. The current definition states an amount of a type of cannabis product produced in one production cycle using the same formulation and standard operating procedures. So this definition is already currently widely misinterpreted, or interpreted in varying ways across the industry. For example, some may think that pre-rolls that use the same flower but different paper are still the
30
same.
seconds.
So I think clear guidance is needed here first in order to build new regulations on top of this. And even for the new proposed term of same product identity, that also requires further clarification to avoid confusion. Thank you.
Thank you. John Brower, you are now unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with previous commenters that the limitation of 3 different products with independent COAs per batch is it really serves no purpose to have the number that small. I think it should be opened up and perhaps not even have a number. But also the limitation on being from a single cannabis category is really unnecessary and just further hamstrings the transition to this regulated market. For instance, it might be something to have flour and a pre-roll and hash or rosin from the same actual batch, cultivated batch, available to consumers. And it really is time that the state loosen up some of the consumer access to what they really want. For instance, the state of Oregon has deli style sales available, where consumers can choose from large containers of COA'd product in a licensed retail. So it's all age gated and everything's COA'd, but they can choose what they buy before they buy it. And that is how California consumers are used to purchasing cannabis for many decades. Nobody that really needs or really loves cannabis in California wants to buy some sterile packaged box
30
without
seconds.
knowing what's in it. And I don't think there's been any big ramifications with health or safety or youth from this in Oregon, and it's something California should seriously consider, actually making this white market work. And California could be showing the rest of the world how to do this right instead of destroying everything that makes our product special. Thank you.
Thank you. Right next we have call-in user. You are now unmuted.
Hi, this is Mary Beth Smith from Encore Labs. I just wanted to piggyback on my colleague and say that I think we also need additional clarification for packaging requirements because this will directly affect how sampling and homogenization are performed by the lab. For example, the proposed regulations state if a cannabis product is a multi-batch product, the sampler must collect a representative sample from each batch contained within the multi-batch, which feels counterintuitive if all of these are meant to be in one finished product unit. I'm not sure how there would be any other way to sample that. And then on top of that, how are labs expected to homogenize, for instance, a dual vape cartridge or a 5-chamber vape cartridge to isolate each individual batch that was used to make that product? In our current SOPs, that's borderline impossible. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Swider, you are now unmuted. Josh, looks like we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. All right. Kayla Reinas, you are now unmuted. Looks like we're having a little bit of audio for Kayla as well. We will unmute for Josh again. Josh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. I didn't hear my name get called. Yeah, it's Josh Sweeter from Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs. A couple things I think we should clarify with even these proposed regulations, what is currently allowed and currently not allowed. Like someone has brought up on this call before, there's already stuff on the market. There's been stuff on the market for years. I have clarification emails about different types of things that would be considered multi-products that are allowed to be tested as multi-products. Like example, a pack of gummies with multi-colors in it. Is that a multi-product or not a multi-product? I think emails from the DC clarifying which way that is, but then it's not always being upheld. Why I bring that up is I think a technical bulletin set out by the DCC to clarify what is actually a multi-product right now currently would be very important for the industry. So people aren't possibly running into a recall or in a situation where they're going to be losing a lot of money. This happened in the dual vape pen market. People came online and put a lot of money into that market and then only get the products recalled. I think clarification would be very helpful from the DC if the committee can ask for the DC to clarify these things in things like a technical bulletin. With that being said, there was a technical bulletin set out in the state of Michigan yesterday about this very subject, and they are allowing multi-patch products. I only bring this up because sometimes it's a good way to see for a state to see another way how a state just did it, and they did it without passing any laws or anything else. They're allowing multi-pack products on gummies and inhalable vape pens. And you can see if you look up technical bulletin, Michigan cannabis, you can see the latest one and how they actually did it. And it was quite simple.
30 seconds.
It might be an easier task than some see. That's all I got for today. Thanks.
Thank you. And just a reminder, if for whatever reason your audio isn't working, please raise your hand again at some other point and we'll make sure to get your comment in. All right, Luis Rivera, you are now unmuted.
Hello. I support this Social Equity LA. We support this multi-batch products and would add that there be no limits in the amount or types of products, up to the legal purchasing limits. This is about The legal industry is about access and the California consumer, not restrictions. And also in 2025, I can't believe that we're talking about that a potential increase in youth consumption because of multi-batch products at a legal shop. First of all, do you know what these kids are doing nowadays? What they have access to? Second, this is about a bigger issue, and it's like any other business. It's about the illegal market. Legal store checks IDs. We sell legal products. So, we ask that you enable and not inhibit the California cannabis market and remove all barriers that us cannabis operators face and support all deregulation that makes business sense and helps bring more legal consumers back in our doors. Thank you.
Thank you. Ross Gordon, you are now unmuted.
Morning, Ross Gordon on behalf of Origins Council. Really appreciate this conversation and a lot of the comments that have been made. We support the direction of these regulations, also support the motion in terms of opening up beyond 3 products. Wanted to add maybe a couple points. I think there's 2 really significant weaknesses in the current market that this path forward has the ability to address. One, Louise just mentioned, I think it's just baseline reality that 62% of sales, according to DCC, are continuing to happen in the illicit market. And so I think this is a really thoughtful, common sense way to strengthen the legal market. And I think another challenge that a lot of small producers are facing is that we have a really commodified market. And it's very difficult as small producers to get shelf space and keep shelf space. And consumers don't have access to that diversity of craft products. And I think what is really potentially useful about this path forward is that the craft cannabis is really about diversity, first and foremost. And this is a really unique way to be able to highlight diversity, whether that's diversity of different farmers, diversity of different cultivars, different terpene expressions, different cannabinoid expressions. The opportunity for example, to look at a certain cultivar grown in maybe by different farmers in different outdoor environments and show how that cultivar expresses its unique environment. And so I think there's just a lot of potential here. And would echo that from our perspective, it would be really helpful to not have this 3-product limit. I think there's a lot of opportunities if more products can be packaged together. And also, I think there's
30
opportunities
seconds.
around this product identity question. So I think someone earlier mentioned, for example, having a single cultivar in pre-roll form, in hash form, maybe in concentrate form and flower form, I think is something that could provide a lot of opportunity also. So it would encourage maybe taking a second look at this product identity restriction also. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian Keys, you are now unmuted. Oops.
Hello?
Hello, Adrian.
Am I live here? That was a little
You are.
Thank you very much. I'm Adrian Keys. I'm from the Trinity County Agriculture Alliance up here in the North State, representing a good number of small legacy farms. And I would really like to speak in strong support of the comments I just heard from Ross Gordon and the Origins Council about specifically from my perspective about how a multi-batch product could allow farms to express a number of products in a single package that a consumer could then pick up at a legally licensed retail, and really specifically also the idea of being able to show one farm, like one cultivar grown by several different farms and the variety of expression. Those are the elements, in my opinion, that are missing from the commercial market, from the regulated market, and one of the reasons why the regulated market is not successful. It's because it's too difficult for a small regulated farm to get diverse products onto a shelf. And so frankly, consumers seek them out elsewhere. The consumers want these products and they want to be able to buy them without having to have these artificial restrictions in place that make their acquisitions more difficult. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hannah Nelson, you are now unmuted.
I support what Adrian said, as well as what Ross Gordon said of Origins Council. I would like to also go back in time and support some of the comments with respect not only to the removing of the limitation of 3 items, but also the issues addressing practicality. I think that all wonderful new innovative ideas and the flexibility to address market concerns as the market matures are wonderful, but I think that all regulations need to really be built around the issues of not over not implementing regulations, and particularly new and innovative ones that will add to the burdens and therefore not make the opportunity a practical reality. In addition, the issues pertaining to waste that Anthony had brought up early on, I think are important consideration. So I would encourage some workshop style meetings to really troubleshoot if the DCC does in fact engage in rulemaking process surrounding this and adopts the recommendations of the CAC, if that passes, that some real pragmatics are dealt with from all perspectives, because a wonderful idea can, as a matter of practicality, result in no
30
opportunity, and then
seconds.
it feels like a dashed hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Armstrong, you are now unmuted.
Sarah Armstrong. I am the California Legislative Coordinator for Americans for Safe Access. Founded in 2002, we are the nation's oldest, largest national organization for medical cannabis patients, researchers, and those who otherwise support safe access. It is very important that we consider the needs of patients. As a patient since 2005, I can tell you that finding what works for you on dispensary shelves can be both expensive and time-consuming. Allowing small, multiple batch products greatly accelerates and helps patients find what they need without really getting to the point where abuse is really something that can happen, right? Because you're talking about very small amounts. Now, I know the world isn't going to end if this happens, because between 1996 and 2015, compassion programs frequently would provide their patients with small amounts, grams, of things they thought would be helpful. And when a patient found something that was helpful, they would help them find what form they needed of that product. Did they need a tincture? Did they need
30
something
seconds.
inhalable? If we go forward with this, it will be a huge savings and a huge help to a very vulnerable population, those who use cannabis because nothing else works, for therapeutic use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sequoia Hudson, you are now unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Hello, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I really appreciate this current topic about multi-batch products. My name is Sequoia Hudson. I have a small farm in Northern California that currently is non-operational, unfortunately. But we had struggled in the past with wanting to do something similar like this. We worked with a local distributor that also works with many small farms, and we have a few distributors here that do. And being restricted on our ingenuity and innovation has really been problematic. And this is one thing, ingenuity and innovative ideas that people would like to be able to do, and to have the ability would just be really phenomenal. I would like to state that I don't see any reason why there should be a limit on the types of product, if they're this, or the, I guess the strains of product, if the type is the same. Really, it should just be available for people to, like I said, expand on their creativity and innovation, and put in there the various different things that they can in the different ways, and not limit them with their abilities. So yeah, no limit on the amount of products, as long as, I guess, if there's still daily limits in place, as long as it's under the daily purchase limits. And I would like to say that even, some commenters have expanded on the whys of why it would be important to even be able to mix products. And I can understand from the back end how that would logistically
30
be hard.
seconds.
But maybe we start with start smaller, with maybe only having 2 different products, maybe a rosin and a flower that can be included, and see how that goes. And if it still is restrictive because of the logistics, maybe put it on metric and on the labs to figure out ways that it can be done instead of just saying it can't be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for public comment on agenda item number 4, multi-batch products. All right, Chair Vasterling, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Yes, thank you everybody for your comments. Let's go ahead and close the comment section.
Public comment for agenda item number 4, multi-batch products, is now closed.
Great, thank you. So can we repeat the motion then that we are currently going to be voting on as members, or is there any reason or members, is there any reason to open up further discussion on this within the membership?
I have a few questions. I mean, for a brief discussion, if that's possible.
Yeah, are we allowed to reopen the discussion to members?
Yes, you are.
Great, let's go ahead and reopen it for further discussion amongst the members.
Yeah, I just had a question and maybe something for discussion is if I guess the problem I see just in the chain of events is that if we lift the limit from 3 to many products, that some of the callers brought up the question of labeling. And so thinking about like what the package, like if it's even feasible to get all this information on one package. So I was wondering, you know, to what degree is there flexibility around packaging? A QR code was brought up, or some other kind of like unified ingredient list, or some other kinds of ways of consolidating labeling. But I know a lot of this is also set out in other regulations, so I don't know if anyone has any comment or insight onto what the feasibility of multiple items on the same package would be in regards to labeling.
I mean, for most product types, I don't see there being an issue with labeling if they're the same product type. Like, let's say they're pre-rolls. The information is nearly the same. Maybe if you have different farms on there, you want to highlight the farms. You might run into, a space on the packaging, but that's all an aesthetics thing. If you're running the same product, you would have to have the different test results on there. So we would have to make some adjustments in some of the packaging depending on the product type. Like I had mentioned before, let's say we take 1 gram, split it into 0.2 of 5 different flavors of rosin. Each one of those flavors is going to have its own specific COA, and on the package, I'm assuming this is how it would be done for all of them, there would have to be a COA test result on every package. So there will be some challenges, but I think there's a solution for all of them.
I don't know if anyone at the DCC also had a comment back, because there was some mention that some of the metric experts expressed some concern or expressed just the idea around this kind of limit of 3. And so I'd be curious if there's any more kind of rationale behind that.
Hi, Michael. This is Jacqueline Campion. I don't have a ton of additional detail I can share on that, but all of this feedback and discussion is immensely helpful, and we do plan to bring all of this feedback back to our metric experts and talk about what's possible and what would make the most sense. Another thing we could think about is a phased-in approach, where perhaps phase 1 is almost like a pilot program where we do the limit of 3, and phase 2 at a later date would raise the limit as long as phase 1 goes well. There are lots of options on the table. So this is far from being a final set of regulations. This is just the starting point, and CAC is such a valuable tool for helping us get it right. Thank you.
Along those lines, and Chair Vesseling, I don't know if you know on this, is there something that we have to vote on? Because it feels like there are a lot of unknowns and questions that got raised, and it feels like all we're voting on is the concept of multi-batch, but not with all the specifics of labeling and numbers. And I hear you, Jacqueline, with a potential of phasing, but I think the details on that would be important for us to know as well before we do a vote.
I have a motion and a second currently on the table as a recommendation to the DCC from our CAC.
Through the chair, this is Andrew. I just wanted to add that it sounded like we were, the motion and the second was related to the initial regulatory recommendation that those multi-product packages be limited to 3 and also to the same type of product. And I thought the discussion hovered around, and the motion hovered around not limiting it to 3 of the same, not limiting it to 3 and not limiting it to the same product type. If
That's my understanding as well. Can we read the motion just so that it's very clear to everybody what it is that the motion and second was? That was my
Absolutely.
interpretation too. Great, thank you.
The motion is to advance language with removal of the limitation of 3 products per package.
And this is Jacqueline Campion again. I just wanted to remind everyone, this regulatory package would still be subject to the public regulatory process as outlined in the Administrative Procedures Act. So really appreciate all of the supportive discussion, but this is far from being the end of the process. We would go through formal public comment and the full rulemaking process before anything would be final. So this is just the beginning. I want to make sure that's clear. Thank you so much.
in light of that, Jacqueline, I would side with Bonnie's interpretation that I don't think there's necessarily a vote that the committee needs to make. More so it's just a cumulative recommendation from the committee that DCC pursue greater than 3 and the potential for different product types in those multi-product packages.
And Andrew, thank you for that, and ensuring labeling, discussion of it, and if I'm going to bring in the youth part, that there's some testing on youth and what that might do. But it feels like through this conversation, there's so many different unknowns and discussions. It feels uncomfortable for me personally to be voting on the direction on this at this point.
This is Member Heidelbach. I appreciate Jacqueline's comments that we're still going to be going through a regulatory process where regs are going to be written. We're going to have opportunity to provide public comment and also weigh in on what that looks like. Additionally, I appreciate her comments that we could start with the 3-item limit and then from there move forward if it's successful, and if we find some bumps in the road, that DCC can then alters some of the regs to make sure that we're doing it right. And I do think that it provides an opportunity. You can go to Beverages and More and they'll have a pack of 6 different beers. I know sometimes when folks buy edibles, they want to try different flavors. I'm sensitive to all of that. But supportive of that, but just want to make sure that certain things, the devil's in the details. So distribution, transportation of the products really matter to us. And I want to make sure that that remains tight and that we have the regulations there that we need. Thanks.
Well, so I still don't understand the reasoning behind the 3 cap anyways. I don't see the purpose of doing this work twice if it's like this pilot program, especially when there's still a lot more to this process. Once we decide, hey, we want to move this forward to the next step, doesn't mean that it's final in law. But I don't see why we would have a 3 cap on it when it could be 5 or really limited to the state limits of each category.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brandon. I think this is the opportunity to provide, what we see as what the future looks like. And in my opinion, I mean, each of these things are being sold individually as they are now. at the dispensary. So I don't see any reason to be able to put them in the same package as long as it doesn't exceed the daily limits. So, you know, I still am in favor of the motion and second that has been on the floor. Is that recommendation for this? Personally, I also don't see any reason why we can't mix product types. Maybe we limit it product types as a pilot program. But I love the idea of having a single strain in different formats from a single farm. I think that allows a lot of flexibility, especially from the craft community. And so, you know, that's kind of where that's how I feel about it as a craft farmer up here in Humboldt as well. I think that would be an interesting opportunity, and I think that there's a consumer demand for that. People are going in and buying these products individually, but I think to be able to you know, simplify and in fact, I believe potentially reduce the amount of waste by having them in a single package versus 3 individual packages is something that should be considered as well.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to say I'm in agreement with Chair Vasterling, and I'm just a little befuddled though of the discussion of whether we need to vote or not, and then secondarily if we would need another motion, because right now the motion is only regarding the limit of 3, not regarding different product types. So if someone could clarify that, that'd be helpful.
All right, let me restate that motion really quickly. The motion is to advance language with removal of the limitation of 3 products per package.
Sorry, will you one more time? I just want to hear the beginning of the sentence.
Yeah, motion is to advance language with removal of the limitation of 3 products per package.
I mean, I would totally be in support of the multiple different products as a part of this. We just didn't have a lot of discussion on it. But if it takes, you know, I got to change my motion to adding that in there, I would do that if we had the support, you know, of the group as well.
Carmela Beck here. I also am supportive of that. I think that we could, if it'd be appropriate for the DCC to consider both increasing the limit and or not having a limit, and then in addition to that, ensuring that there's an opportunity for different product types. So I fully support the consideration. And as I think Director Campion said, this is just the initial phases of, you know, information gathering, and that there'll be a lot more along the way for us to consider and discuss.
And like it was mentioned before, people are already buying multiple products and staying within their limits. The only thing this really does is it makes it so that there's an avenue through metric for us to be able to track this easier at retail, and also getting the point of sale system in line to be able to make one sale for maybe 3 or 4 products. It's not just going to be the sampling. It may be a collaboration of brands to be able to sell under one SKU as a package. There's a lot of benefit in that from the retailer's standpoint, and then it also gives incentives for consumers to maybe get a deal through those collaborations. So there's more than one benefit that we would get out of this.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I just in terms of process, obviously the DCC has their own reg package process that they're required to follow. Are we just voting on asking them to incorporate this feedback and then come back to report to this committee? Or like when you say that they're considering it, what does that mean?
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand that too. Are we endorsing it? Because I know for me personally, it makes a big difference. Am I endorsing this or just saying we are recommending that go ahead and research this more or phase something? Yeah, to me, the motion is a little bit vague.
Hi, members. This is Jacqueline Campion. We have a motion and a second to advance the language pretty much as it is, but with the removal of the cap on 3. So with this motion and second, we will need to take a vote unless the individual who made the motion would like to withdraw the motion or change the motion. And of course, if anyone doesn't feel comfortable voting yes, there's always the option to vote no. So hopefully that helps clarify.
Or abstain.
If it's considered to be revised, I would recommend that the new motion or the revised motion lift the limit on 3 products, that it lift the restriction on product type or product identity, and that the DCC look further into to what the implications of this are for labeling and COA, like both in terms of feasibility as well as in consumer protection. But I can't revise a motion, so whoever made
Thank
the
you,
initial
Member
motion.
Polson. Member Levine, I believe you were the one who initially made the motion. So if you would like to revise your motion, you could do so.
Yes, I would like to revise the motion to remove the 3 cap as well as allowing for multiple different types of products within it. And then I guess we would keep the rest of the language the same.
So I would like to suggest a recommendation that we amend the motion to sort of create some sort of structure where the DCC reports back after investigating this a little bit more. I just think at this point, I don't feel comfortable supporting the motion, making a recommendation without having more information on my end.
I would agree with that.
I think we have to support this part of it to get the DCC to take the next step and make their comments coming back.
We could request in the motion, if we wanted to, that we want to remove the limit on the number, remove a limit on the type, and request that DCC return to the advisory committee before releasing the regulations for public comment.
That would be my preference if I'm going to support today.
Yeah, I'm totally in support of that as well. So I can revise that if Jacqueline says if that process can actually happen that way. I'm not sure how the DCC handles the next steps. So
Hi, this is Jacqueline Campion again. To clarify, the DCC is soliciting feedback from the CAC, and the CAC is able to word your recommendation however you feel is most helpful to the process, and DCC will consider all of your recommendations. Thank you.
So now maybe be the appropriate time to revise. I would like to remove the 3 cap and then allow for multiple products, keeping the language the same, but also asking the DCC to bring back their findings to this group so that we can further evaluate it from there.
Thank you. Is that motion clear to everybody?
Yes,
Do I have a second?
I can second that. Beck, Carmela Beck.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead. We do have a second. Can we repeat the motion, please?
Member
Before we take a
Levine,
roll?
would you please repeat your motion one more time? I don't think we captured it correctly.
Okay, like to file a motion to remove the 3 cap to have unlimited numbers on their product numbers, and then also remove the product type and allow for all product types. And then to come back to the advisory committee after the DCC puts in their final language or changes they may make, so for review for this committee.
Give us just a moment while we capture that comment. The motion to remove the cap of 3 products and remove the limitation on product types, as well as recommend the DCC comes back to the CAC for further discussion after these updates has been captured. Does that sound correct to you, Member Levine?
Yes.
Second.
Hi there. Can you let me know who seconded that, just for the record?
Sorry, that was Member Beck.
Thank you, Member Beck.
Thank you. So moderator, can we please call the roll?
Member Beck? Member Broad?
Aye.
Member Halpern-Felcher?
Nay for still concerns over young people. Thank you.
Member Heidelbach?
Aye.
Member Huynh?
Aye.
Member Levine?
Aye.
Member Polson?
Aye.
Member Ramirez?
Aye.
Member Smith?
Aye.
Member Tupy?
Aye.
Chair Vasterling?
Aye.
Vice Chair Payan?
Aye.
The motion to remove the cap of 3 products and remove the limitation on product types, as well as recommend that DCC comes back to the CAC for further discussion after these updates passes.
Thank you, everybody. And now before we move on to action item number 5, we've been on the call here for over 2 hours and 15 minutes. What I'd like to do is just call a quick or a brief half-hour break so that people could do bio breaks on a quick lunch if they need to. And so we will come back at 12:20 to resume the call. All right, welcome back, everybody. Moderator, are you available to take a roll?
I am. When I call your name, please respond present. Chair Vasterling,
Present?
Vice Chair Payan,
Present.
Member Beck, thank you. Member Broad,
Present.
Member Halpern Felcher,
Present.
Member Heidelbach,
Present.
Member Huynh,
Present.
Member Levine,
Present.
Member Polsom, Member Ramirez,
Present.
Member Smith,
Someone said present for me, so I'm not sure if that was a mistake or not. But I'm present, Michael Polson.
oh, thank you. Member Tupy,
Present.
all right, we have quorum.
Thank you, moderator. All right, so now on to agenda number 5, the department's proposal related to the implementation of SB 1064 by Senator Laird. I'd like to go ahead and welcome back Deputy Director Jacqueline Campion to give us a brief overview.
Thank you so much, Chair Vasterling. All right, so the item we have before you for discussion is implementation of Senate Bill 1064, which was passed last year by Senator Laird. This establishes a new license type called the Combined Activities License, which allows a business to conduct 2 or more commercial cannabis activities under a single license at the same premises, excluding laboratory testing. So the department is in the process of defining what that combined activities license would look like, and we are seeking your input. We are considering creating a specific list of activities that would qualify for a combined activities license and thinking about which activities would be compatible or not compatible. So in the meeting materials, which you can find on our Cannabis Advisory Committee website, in case anyone is looking for that, we have a table of qualifying activities that we propose. And so we're hoping that we can get some feedback on this list, if there are any additional angles that we should consider, if anything should be added to or removed from the list. Essentially, this list would allow businesses to select 2 activities from the same category or from different categories: cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, or retail. Transport only self-distro and event only retail must be paired with at least one of the production activities with an asterisk next to it. And in seeking your feedback, we have a few specific questions that we would love to hear input on. Those questions for discussion include, are there any additional activities that should be added to the list? Or are there any activities on the list that should be removed? Are there any activity combinations that should be prohibited? Should combined activities licenses be limited in the total number of activities they conduct? If a combined activities license includes cultivation, how should the canopy size be defined? For example, should it mirror existing license sizes? Should it create new size tiers by square footage? And then finally, should there be premises related or other requirements specific to a combined activities license? So with that, I will turn it back over to Chair Vasterling and look forward to everyone's feedback.
Chair, I think you might be on mute.
There we go. Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Director Campion. I'd now like to open the floor for discussion on this topic. Members, the floor is now open for discussion.
This is Member Heidelbach. I'm just curious, what is the difference between this and the micro business?
That's a great question. That was one of the first things that we looked at in thinking about the regulatory concepts for implementation of this bill. We thought a lot about this. I think we could have hit the easy button and said copy paste micro business, but instead of 3 activities, it's 2. But we saw this bill as a really interesting opportunity to effect some additional changes that would provide benefits for the industry and for public health and for all Californians. So we wanted to take a more holistic look at this and thought that the Cannabis Advisory Committee would be a really great place to get feedback on additional things that we may want to consider and just make sure that we're looking at this in the right way. So in short, it's providing more flexibility than a micro business provides.
But thank you, Jacqueline, for that. But it's not limited to 2, correct? Because it says here 2 or more.
2 or more.
Okay, so all right. So even though a micro business is 3, this says 2 or okay. All right. I think I understand.
I have a lot of questions for this one. That was one of them. How does it differ from a micro business license? Why wouldn't it just be 2? But there are some restrictions with the micro business license that I don't know if you guys are taking into consideration with this. I also hold a micro business license where I have every single use besides testing. And we have to be on the same APN number, the same parcel. All of our spaces actually have to be contiguous. We were not able to get our micro business license unless every single operation had touching walls. They didn't have to have pass-through doors. Is that going to be required with this new 2 or more? I can just run through my questions and we can maybe go, or we're just doing one at a time.
I can answer that first question. That is absolutely up for discussion.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we would want to know, is it the same APN number or can it be 2 neighboring properties? And then also, does it have to be one contiguous space? Because that was a major hurdle that took us quite some time to get over. One being I had to take over more space that was separating my distribution from my cultivation, manufacturing, and retail. So if we could figure out, get some clarification on that before we even have too much discussion. Can the different operations have different ownership structure? So you may be, let's say it is on different parcel numbers and they're right next door to each other, and you might have one common owner, but then there's it's normal in this industry to have multiple partnerships, and some of them having shared ownership. So would those ones be able to work under this shared license?
That's an interesting question. No, our regulatory approach is that this would be consistent with other license types in terms of ownership requirements. So it would need to have the same ownership structure across all the activities.
Does this actually support big corporations, allowing them to have multiple licenses on one place, therefore cutting their cost down and allowing them to have a competitive advantage over somebody like me who just has a micro business license?
I don't have an answer for that at this time, but it is something that we're looking at and would love to hear feedback on. We are also contemplating what the fee structure for this new license type would look like. So all of that feedback is very timely and helpful.
And then I have one more, that more will come up, but can they all be one use? Let's say you have 4 cultivations, but on different APN numbers, and they're all individually licensed. Would those all be able to be put into one license? Because I don't think you can get 2 licenses on the same APN number for cultivation. Maybe you can, I just haven't come across it. So that's why I threw out, the parcel or APN number on that one.
Definitely want to hear more information and input from the committee and from the public on the parcel and APN number and how a premises should be defined. Don't have an answer for you on multiple cultivations. There would need to be at least 2 or more activities on the list.
So then the other one would also be, even though you may have common ownership or the same, let's say with me, I don't have partners and I have one grow here and then I have a distribution over here, but they're different corporations. Therefore, they are different owners of the license. Would those be able to be combined even though they have separate corporations?
No, they would not.
So they'd all have to be under one corporate structure. Okay.
Correct.
I think that's all I have for right at this moment.
I have a question, if that's okay. So, I apologize if this is covered in the materials you shared or not. I'm just trying to think about the implication of the combination of multiple licenses and how the DCC views that impacting labor peace agreement requirements. Do you have any sense yet? Have you thought about that?
Thanks, Member Broad. The LPA requirements would continue to apply to the business as a whole. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so my concern, and we've talked a little bit about this in the past, is making sure that licensees aren't sort of evading LPA requirements by parsing out the number of employees they have on different licenses to sort of avoid accountability under what's statutorily required. And so I just want to make sure that as we move forward, that remains consistent for this sort of combined license.
Absolutely. We're in agreement there.
I got another one. Would you be able to merge, let's say it's 2 cultivations into one metric account so that there's a cost savings and operationally it might make a little bit of sense, but is that something that's been thought of, and how would we go about that if this were to move forward?
Yes. The combined activities license would have one metric account associated with all activities under that one license. So I think the answer is yes.
So that was, this is Member Beck. A big question for me is the simplification, how it's going to impact metric. And so if you have a farm that has a couple small licenses, cultivation licenses, you could combine it into the CAL, and then that would translate into one metric license. Am I hearing that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, so I think that's outstanding from the get-go. I have other questions, but I'm going to stop for a moment and just kind of gather my thoughts.
Thank you, members. This is very helpful. Keep them coming.
I have another one. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brandon.
So if you have, let's call it multiple cultivation as an example, and you have 2 licenses, you have one metric account, can you then move clones, seeds, product between the 2 cultivation because now they're on the same metric and tagging system?
Give me one moment. We're conferring internally.
I mean, it would make a lot of sense for us as operators because I have 2 separate nurseries at separate cultivation, but yet I can't move, one over to the other without, there's loopholes that you have to make happen. Like you can buy it from retail but it has to go through a metric transfer from the nursery to cultivation. Yeah, it would make sense for us to be able to move plants, like veg plants, from one location, if that's all we did, to a flowering cultivation facility.
If it's under the same license on the same premises, yes.
So you're saying they have to be on the same premise then?
Yes, and we can define premises for the purpose of this license. For example, contiguous APNs.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, unknowns until now.
Okay.
I've got a quick question. So under manufacturing, I see there's volatile, non-volatile, edibles, infused products, and then there's the third-party packaging and labeling, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Jacqueline, used to be under distribution. No? The labeling and packaging was done by a distributor?
It can be done by a distributor. It can be done by a distributor.
Okay.
Except for a distributor can't package manufactured goods. So the manufactured products have to be packaged at a manufacturing facility. So is this a separate use for manufacturing packages as opposed to cultivation packaging, which can happen at distribution?
That's correct. Thank you, Member Levine.
Thank you. Is there any limit at all that's being discussed? So, for example, we're saying 2 or more, but if we have a cultivator and a manufacturer, and let's say they also have a retail and they want to do transport only, self distribution, is that an option or no?
It absolutely could be an option. And if there are benefits to any of these suggested scenarios, we want to hear them. Now is the place to tell us about them so that we can incorporate that into justification for future rulemaking. So this is
Okay.
helpful.
So I have, I guess, a follow-up question then. And I'm thinking about licensing fees, and I'm thinking about what I understand the pressures that the industry is under. I also understand the pressures that DCC is under, and some of the funding for enforcement comes from the licensing. I know there's been some good progress in the budget, but I'm curious if there's been any discussion, internal discussion of how that is going to work. And right now, folks are paying obviously licensing fees for, each different license they have. But how functionally would this be implemented?
I think we are absolutely taking suggestions on that at this time. We're very early in the concept development process. So taking suggestions, I think there are a lot of really interesting opportunities with this new license type. So the suggestions and examples of why the suggestions would be helpful are welcomed right now.
And then finally, just a couple comments about I worry about the illicit industry, which has already been mentioned. I worry about, obviously we want to make it easier. We've talked about onerous regulations and making sure that businesses can thrive here in California. But I also just want us to be mindful of creating pathways for diversion and ways that folks can move product. And so, I just, from our perspective, that's something that we want to make sure we have good controls there. And I'm talking about things like video surveillance and other things that that can help prevent diversion of product.
Absolutely on the same page there with you. Prevention of inversion and diversion is something we absolutely want to fold into how we are crafting this new license type. And so if there are any specific things that we should incorporate into the regulations to effectuate that goal, please let us know what those suggestions are.
I have a couple more questions. Will the 2 or more operations be able to share your waste management space and program? And then also sharing storage space, products, final finished product storage or bulk product storage? 2 cultivations, have a storage room, maybe they're curing, maybe they're drying, whatever it is. Are they going to be able to commingle those spaces, even if you were to identify product per location with the metric tagging? So can you share spaces?
Let me put it this way. I think one of the potential activities on the suggested list of activities deals with storage. So you could contract with others for storage of products. You could be a self-distributor, or you could distribute for others, and storage could be contemplated as a part of that. So potentially the answer is yes, and it would depend on the specifics.
I guess where I see maybe might be a little confusion would be growing at one place and my dry room's full. I need more dry room space. Can I move the product over to the other space because they're under the same license, or other uses, trimming and all those things? And I bring product from this space over to that one and trim for grow A, but I'm trimming in grow B.
Yes, as long as it's under the same license, yes.
Have any other questions or comments by members? I personally, I'm really excited about the flexibility of the implementation of SB 1064. So I appreciate the DCC bringing this forward. I'm also really excited about the events only retail license. I think that allows for a lot of flexibility in the industry, and I think that that's what we're looking for, is to have more flexible way to do business moving forward. So I appreciate that. But if we don't have any more discussion or comments by membership, then we'll go ahead and move forward with public comment, or unless there's a motion. But I just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to ask any additional questions or bring up any additional thoughts.
I personally want to hear from the community because there's so many unknowns. I can't weigh in on it just yet.
Okay. So should we open it up to public comment and then maybe regroup as membership and just make sure that the topic has been flushed? Does that make sense? Great. All right, so moderator, can we go ahead and open to public comment?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 5, combined activities license. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning, and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press star 3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commenter. Abe, you are now unmuted.
Hello. So yeah, I'm back to talk about the SB 1064. First, I'm from Nevada County, and I'm here talking about having some talking points in the name of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. And the first thing is that it's really important for us that the transition to combine licenses, it should be a simple scientific amendment, just like that was recently done with the renewal dates or the canopy size changes or the the not operational status. So that's definitely a need. We also want to be clear that this eliminates the need to have defined spaces, that from now on under this license, all spaces are shared, the drying, the processing, the storage. Of course, anything that's associated with mother plants, that also has to be linked to this. We also need an option to choose renewal dates on this CAL. And additional activities. We are definitely asking for no limitations on activities and not to have anything limited, to have as much of
30
possible
seconds.
activities as we will need. The transportation license should be looked at because it's everything on the same premises. We don't need any more self-transport license, so that also has to be eliminated. And the single metric account, that is a huge thing for us. Also, under the fees, we're looking for reducement of fees on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Karen Woodson, you are now unmuted.
Thank you, and good afternoon, members of the committee. Karen Woodson, again for Kiva and KSS. As a multiple license holder on a single premise who's not a microbiz, I very much support and appreciate the flexibility being offered by the idea here. And unfortunately, Jacqueline, I don't have answers to your questions. I just have more questions. So bear with me, but I do want to echo the comments, the request that we do have some sort of consolidated metric ID. Compliance, cost, and ease alone and efficiency would be greatly benefited by a single metric ID, especially under a combined license. And then I heard there would be some clarity coming on the premise compliance, premise clarity, storage waste, etc. But most importantly, will we finally be able to tear down these walls? And then lastly, echoing the comments from member Heidelbach, what are the anticipated fees or maybe cost savings for either the DCC and or the licensees, and specifically, if for existing licensees who have 2 licenses, would there be transition costs, or would I be able to combine licenses
30
upon
seconds.
the first renewal, like the first license that renews in the bunch there? So some clarity there about the additional costs or fees that would be required for either transition or the new license type. So thank you.
Thank you. Sequoia Hudson, you are now unmuted.
Yeah, hi, Sequoia here again. Thank you for this opportunity. I strongly support the combined activities license and the concept. I still am not clear on why not just improve what we have with the micro license? Why can't these great ideas be integrated into the micro license? Why reinvent the wheel, right? But make it better. But yes, there shouldn't be any limit on activities. We should be able to do whatever activities we're registered and signed up to do. And there shouldn't be any restrictions on that license so long as it's all disclosed and on the premise and identified and everything's in metrics. So please make this happen. It is really an important tool. There's benefits on both sides, both the agencies and the operators are going to benefit from this. There's going to be reduced cost around efficiency, around logistics, monetarily, everything on both sides. And so it just is a no-brainer. It makes sense however we can make this happen. And hopefully that will help, reduce the administrative costs will happen and our fees will reduce, and we can see efficiencies in everything going on in our operations. And I just wanted to answer earlier what one of the people there on the panel was asking about multiple operations on an APN. We can currently do that, but there are restrictions and there's places where it can't happen, but it is allowed. Thank you. Combined licenses.
Thank you. Ross Gordon, you are now unmuted.
Everyone, Ross Gordon on behalf of Origins Council. Really appreciate the discussion on this issue. We really strongly supported SB 1064. We're excited to see the discussion on implementing it. Want to highlight a couple of different things that have been said previously that we want to just agree with. We did submit a written comment that's more comprehensive, so I'll try to just hit on a few highlights. First, I think it's important, the DCC looks at logistical issues in transition, either for people who currently have multiple licenses who want to pursue this opportunity, or people who currently hold one license who maybe want to transition to a combined license with multiple activities. Second, I think the transport aspect of this is important. So if you have a combined activities license, being able to move product between those activities without a separate transportation license, I think would be very helpful. Third, the discussion on shared spaces would be great to think more about that, get some clarity on that. I think it's a complicated issue potentially, but the more flexibility there can be in terms of sharing spaces between these activities, I think that'll make a big difference in implementation. Fourth, want to back up what several people said about the opportunity for a reduction in fees here. Our hope would be that this would be an administrative savings for DCC and that savings could be passed on to licensees in terms of licensing fees. And finally, something that hasn't been discussed as much that is, and I think the fourth discussion question from DCC, I do think there's an opportunity, and we think there's an opportunity to look at the cultivation licensing structure here, since we do have the opportunity to now move multiple cultivation licenses into a single license structure. And so in particular, looking at the ways in which a lot of people aren't growing their full cultivation area now because of the way that things are sort of segmented out, to make it easier to grow 8,000 square feet or 30,000 square feet and paying equal licensing costs, whether you're a small farmer or big farmer. Right now, small farmers are paying more per square foot. I think there's a real opportunity to address all of that here, and that's explored in more detail in our comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig, Appenglow Farms, you are now unmuted.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I've introduced myself a few times already today and given a picture of what our farm looks like and how we perform activities. I've been asking since the beginning of time for a homestead license, the right for a cultivator to have a nursery and to move our product to and from the farm. That has not been able to be happening so far without multiple license types. So we're really, really excited about this, and we strongly support it for us to hold a transport only, but the transport only needs to be amended because $2 million of insurance isn't affordable for a small farm like ours, so we don't have that. And we need to be able to have the nursery activities as well to have a full functioning farm. I mean, imagine trying to have a farm without making seeds or being able to go pick up seeds or deliver product to market. So this would be a great advantage to us in the future, but it needs to be a flip of a switch. Cultivation now has transport and nursery done, not applying for new diagrams, all these other things, because these are all natural things that a farm would be doing. So I'm going to leave it at that. Ideally, I would love
30 seconds.
I would love to be able to do ice water extraction. I would love to be able to host an event. I would love to be able to do these other things, but that's the big dream. Let's keep it in reality. And what does a farm need? A farm needs to be able to make seeds, grow plants, flower plants, and get those to market. Simple. And let's do that with a flip of a switch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Adrian Keys, you are now unmuted.
Thank you once again, Adrian Keys, Trinity County Agriculture Alliance. I really agree with a lot the last caller had to say. There are some really elemental aspects of being a farmer that that some of the existing regulation kind of impedes. I would also, again, support the comments from Origins Council and Ross Gordon. That's something that I've been involved with for a while at the Origins Council and a strong supporter of those. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this regulation, proposed regulation, differs from micro business and how it relates to me and my community. Is a lot of people here are unable to access a micro business license type because of our local regulation prohibiting distribution in certain zones. And in order to get a micro business license, you have to use statutorily created license types. So the self-distribution transport only does not apply. So this regulation ideally would allow the transfer of material across those license types without any sort of a regulation, but most certainly it would at least open the door for the non-trans or for the transport only type license types, which are permitted in our regulations. It's the full distribution that we are unable to access here, and it's in the neighborhood of 50% of our licenses. And so this has a tremendous implication for a very, very small rural county with a relatively large amount of cultivators, and due to its rural nature and its local regulation, a very, very limited local supply chain. We don't have distribution facilities that we can rely on to show up when we need
30
them,
seconds.
just to move material from one license type to another, or to move seeds or cuttings, or to move cannabis material from cultivation to manufacturing, or all of those things. So I'm a supporter of this one, and I really hope to see some good benefits coming out of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Elise Jackson, you are now unmuted.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking, Elise Jackson. I'm speaking on behalf of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. Several talking points we have. The transition to a combined license should be simple, something along the lines of a scientific amendment. There is the need to share spaces for drying, processing, storage. We should have the option to choose a renewal date, as well as choosing which license number we want to keep if you already have several licenses. There's also the need for adjacent parcels to combine onto one premise. This is very much a Nevada County thing where we have the option of being able to lease property from a neighbor to expand our grow footprint. There needs to be the ability to add canopy size easily. There's already a model that exists for this for larger farms, and we want to expand that to, us smaller folks. License fees should be prorated. The addition of activities to an existing license should be made easy. This follows the line of a scientific amendment. And no transport license required, having a single metric account, and fees. Use the existing model for a micro business. Now I'm going to speak on behalf of myself, not as the Alliance. And I currently have a micro business license with 10,000 square feet of cultivation space. And I just added a 5,000 square foot
30
medical
seconds.
license for outdoor. What I would like to see, as Sequoia mentioned, is an enhanced micro business license. However, to protect the small farmers, I believe personally that there should be a cap on the max square footage of grow space, maybe something along the lines of 40,000 square feet, which is about 1 acre. Thank you so much for letting me speak on behalf of myself and the Cannabis Alliance in Nevada County.
Thank you. Hannah Nelson, you are now unmuted.
Hello, thanks for letting me speak again. Hannah Nelson. I support many of the comments that have previously been mentioned, and I'm going to reiterate the theme that I raised earlier, which is pragmatics. I think that these wonderful innovations and opportunities are excellent. However, if they don't work as a pragmatic matter, particularly for small operators, then it's kind of like dangling a carrot without being able to eat it. So with respect to some of the items that Ross mentioned, I think that taking this opportunity to change the dynamics of charging license fees in accordance with square footage in smaller increments, and being able to change that from time to time. I'm concerned about the logistics of whether if it's through scientific amendment, which I agree with the previous speaker that it should be simplified process. However, I'm also concerned that farmers who may have a need to adjust sizes. Let's say they have a fungus problem that they're trying to remediate, and they want to reduce size and then increase size. And they, from time to time, since it's farming, they really have a need to adjust. So the greatest amount of
30 seconds.
flexibility in terms of the on-ramp and the off-ramp, rather than being a whole license year, having other opportunities to be able to adapt. And I do feel that there's an incredible need for shared spaces amongst the different activities under a same license. Thank you.
Thank you. Kitty H, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. I'd like to offer a public perspective. The greater the complexity of a combined activity license will serve the needs and desires of large operators to scale their operations, increase their efficiency, and therefore profitability. However, it seems like making it easier for large operations will further harm smaller businesses already experiencing undue competitive advantage from large-scale operators. Also, the greater the complexity of regulations, that seems to be echoed by some of the confusion expressed by your own members, and they request to have them simplified, seems justified. Why are larger farms allowed to expand their canopy size when that is not a privilege permitted for smaller businesses? And the suggestion that an enhanced microbusiness license that would protect smaller farmers would be to have a cap of 1 acre of square footage. That seems very reasonable. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kiara, apologies if I mispronounced that. You are now unmuted. Kiara, we might be having a little bit of trouble with your audio. Kiara, I'm going to put your hand down, and if you want to try raising it one more time and speaking, we'll give it one more go. All right, last call for public comment on agenda item number 5, combined activities license. Hi, Jeff, you are now unmuted.
Yeah, am I on?
Yes, you are.
Great. Oh, okay, thanks. My name's Jeff Nordahl. Sorry, I'm actually a small farmer and I have been farming in between popping in on this meeting. So I'm sorry if I missed any information here. But so I'm going to give just a little bit of a buzzkill comment here on the combined activities. I am currently a small farmer micro business. And what I'm seeing here is basically the combined activities is, instead of a micro business, is just turning into a macro business. So it's just the ability to do full vertical integration now just on a massive scale. And also gets rid of the restriction on manufacturing. So now it allows volatile extraction as well. So this very easily could become a 100-acre mega farm that's just cranking out distillate on that same campus, just on a very large scale. As far as benefiting small farmers, the micro business already exists, and we can create all kinds of cool licenses at the state level, but the place where implementation actually gets snagged up for the small farmers is on the local level.
30 seconds.
So unless there's some sort of local control issue that bypasses or takes away control from planning departments, we could create this cool combined activities license, but you're still going to run into fire code if you're going to be manufacturing, distributing, or whatever. And then people are just going to be hung up and in the same spot. The micro business exists, but no one can get it because of local control, not the.
Thank you so much. Michelle, you are now unmuted.
I'm sorry. I just want to really support the whole concept of this that simplifies the whole process and makes the reality of running a farm more reflective in the regulations, because all of these things being separated and compartmentalized makes it expensive and really difficult. So I really applaud this process, and I hope that it's successful, and good luck, you guys.
Thank you. All right, last call for public comment on agenda item number 5, combined activities license. All right, Chair, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Yes, please. Thank you, everybody, for your comments.
Public comment for agenda item number 5, combined activity license, is now closed.
Great, thank you. And now, as discussed, I'd like to go ahead and open it back up to members to see if there's any further questions or discussion before we go ahead and move on to the next agenda item.
I had one thing that came up was how does this coincide with local permitting? Because we have micro business licenses, which are only allowed in some cities or jurisdictions and then not in others. Would this be in conflict with what the local municipalities put forward during their voting process? I mean, are we going to be allowing for what would technically be a micro business license when those jurisdictions decided that may have not been what they wanted in their jurisdiction?
Thanks, Member Levine. That's a great point. You know, whatever we do at the state level, locals still have the ability to make decisions about land use and zoning and all of those things. So the local control challenges, you know, might still be there, but we're trying to be creative and do what we can at the state level to enact regulations that make good sense for businesses. And there's not a lot that we can do from our perspective about the local control issues, but you know, that I appreciate all of the discussion and all of these points.
Any other discussion amongst members? Do we need to have a motion from members in support of moving the implementation of SB 1064 forward?
If you would like to, you may.
I'd like to go ahead and make that motion then.
Chair Vasterling, would you mind stating your motion and I'll record that?
Sure. My motion is simply for the CAC committee to recommend the implementation of SB 1064 moving forward.
Thank you for that.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Member Payan.
And moderator, can we please call the roll?
Member Beck? I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Aye.
Thank you. Member Broad?
Aye.
Member Halpern-Felscher?
Aye.
Member Heidelbach?
Aye.
Member Huynh?
Aye.
Member Levine?
Aye.
Member Polson?
Aye.
Member Ramirez?
Aye.
Member Smith? Member Tupy? Chair Vasterling? Vice Chair Payan?
Aye.
All right, the motion to recommend the implementation of SB 1064 moving forward has passed.
Thank you, members. All right, so now on to agenda item number 6. And agenda item number 6 is on any recommendations for future agenda items. So at this time, members, I'd like to go ahead and open the floor for any input on future agenda items.
I guess I'll talk on this one. I don't know where we left off with the batch tagging. I would like to put some sort of motion to move like that. Let's get that on our priority list because we hear a lot of feedback. I know that we had talked about it and I don't know where it got left off as far as how to complete that process and then get something like that into motion and getting the benefit from it.
Yeah, SB 622. I agree with that too, Brandon.
Chair Vaseline, there was some discussion at the last meeting I remember around youth that was requested by both the public, and I think I had some public comment or some comment on that. I don't remember all the items, but I just want to make sure that we're going back to look at those as well.
Was that specific to SB 62 or was that just
in general?
In general, got it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I think speaking about the youth stuff, I'd love to see where the tax dollars are being allocated to the youth programs because from my understanding, that tax hike doesn't, no youth programs are getting to see any of that money. That tax hike was told by Mike McGuire's office that it was already allocated to a nonprofit, a labor union, and environmental group. And it's well over $100 million that they said, we have to find this deficit. And from my understanding, that didn't say it was being allocated to any youth program. So I don't know how you check where the tax dollars are being allocated to, but if they're not being allocated to the youth programs, which was part of the intention of the taxes, it doesn't make sense for anybody to pay tax then.
Brandon, I'm in agreement in terms of, and I, I have to state my obvious conflict of interest that I run a bunch of develop and disseminate youth prevention programs and cessation programs, but I agree that it would be good to have a discussion about that and hear from DCC, as well as on marketing and flavors and THC levels and so on. I know there was some public comment on the last meeting, and I'm not sure. I think we had discussed about a subgroup within the committee, and I'm not sure where that left off. Thank you.
I do just want to clarify, Brandon, to your point, SEIU is a labor union that receives some of that funding, but it goes directly to childcare spots for low-income families. So.
Recommendations amongst members for future agenda items? Okay, hearing none. Moderator, can we go ahead and please open the floor for public comment?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 6, recommendations for future agenda items. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press *3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commenter. Craig, you are now unmuted.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Craig Johnson, Alpenglow Farms, Humboldt County. I would like to have on a further agenda reopening of the transport only license and to dig into the $2 million worth of insurance needed to hold that license. That doesn't make sense for a small operator like myself who doesn't even have a gross profits of anywhere near that. You could probably even say we're less than $250,000. So to have $2 million worth of insurance on one transportation activity doesn't make any sense for small farms like ours. And this seems like this license should be tailored to a small farm like ours. The other would be let's get batch tagging across the finish line. I don't know if Director Elliott is listening to this, but let's rubber stamp that. Let's finish that. We put a lot of time into lobbying for that, discussing it, figuring it out, and it's done. Like rubber stamp, let's go. So let's figure out why she has not put her stamp on that yet and finish that business. And lastly, $30 million of academic research grant funding. That sounds really good to study whatever you might want to in the cannabis field, but let's put that
30
money,
seconds.
let's put that money back in the consumer's hands, back in the cultivator's hands, and just remove that. Pretty soon we're going to be looking at and studying the extinction event that has happened to the small operators of Humboldt County and the greater state of California. Thank you.
Thank you. Elise Jackson, you are now unmuted.
Good afternoon, Elise Jackson from Nevada County, owner and operator of Sierra Kind. I want to echo the individual plant tagging requirements. Please bring batch tagging into play. I'm literally staring at thousands of plant tags that are no longer usable because I changed one license type to another license type. It creates an extreme amount of trash. It is a pain trying to pull out every single tag from the compost. Harvesting, it's totally insane. In addition, the labor costs for attaching each tag is completely onerous and is a huge, ridiculous, burdensome cost for small farmers. In addition to the batch tagging, right now, Metric only allows you to do something like 115 plants at a time when you harvest. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. When I harvest a greenhouse, I'm harvesting the entire greenhouse, which can have, up to at least 350 plants for one strain, or it could be 700 plants for the entire greenhouse. It needs to be changed and updated. And please make this a priority. I beg of you. It is better for the environment and for the sanity of small farmers. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie H., you are now unmuted.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the comments of Brandon Levine regarding the allocation of taxes for youth and a discussion of the specifics of those youth distributions. You mentioned the union will be donating money to youth programs. However, there was no mention of a specific requirement. And without a specific requirement, that is up to their discretion. And it would be an economic conflict of interest for them because it would come out of their profits. If the concerns of members are serious regarding closing illegal operations, then they need to put forth suggestions for meaningful deterrence to those operations, such as illegal delivery services. They will lose their car if they are found to be delivering product and they are not permitted or associated with a permitted license. There are many of these that should be done, but if it's just words, then, and there's no meaningful specifics behind them, then they are not really worthwhile. The DCC needs to be very specific about what they are doing, what they have done, and what they plan to do. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Kelly McCormick, you are now unmuted.
Hello, this is Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I would like to propose 4 quick issues for future meetings. One is about the testing labs and the lack of qualifications that some seem to have, as evidenced by the LA Times articles and other articles. I'd like to see a cap on the THC levels in edibles. I'm sure you're aware many children end up being accidentally exposed and end up needing emergency care in the hospital because they find edibles that look like candy. And a requirement that permitted shops carry low potency products, low potency THC. That's almost impossible to find in the retailer shops. And also compliance checks on stores for carrying flavored marijuana vape products, which is a violation of guidelines set forth by the DCC. So thank you for your attention to these issues.
Thank you. Sarah Armstrong, you are now unmuted.
And Sarah Armstrong, once again, representing Americans for Safe Access, the nation's oldest, largest national organization for patients. As everyone on this call is probably aware, there is a lawsuit going on into Metric relating to the DCC via accusations that Metric wasn't really doing their job. I would deeply appreciate it if the committee could ask principals to come and talk about this. You can't, in the midst of a lawsuit, talk about everything, but you can talk about ending Metric. All I can see that Metric has done is show that people who are inclined to follow the rules will follow the rules. They don't need kind of oversight that Metric provides. Those who don't care to follow the rules are not impeded in any way by Metric. Additionally, now locally, almost all locations tax cannabis, and you do not need a subpoena to get this information at the state level, and it can serve as a valuable way of learning who is and is not paying their taxes and whether they're paying the correct amount. We don't need Metric for this any longer.
30 seconds.
I hope that the Honorable Committee will consider this. I think that paying Metric $128 million to continue to work on behalf of the state is money that's badly needed for enforcement and other things. I think we can safely say that if you're somebody who cares to follow the rules, you do not need Metric to prove that you are doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Armstrong, you are now unmuted.
I just spoke.
I'm so sorry. Ann Riddle, you are now unmuted. Ann, are you there?
Yes. How do I unmute?
You are unmuted. You can begin your comment at any time.
Sorry, looking around for a tab to push. I'd like to make 2 suggestions regarding a report to this committee on enforcement. One is a general presentation on the DCC's enforcement activities during 2025 and what you're thinking about in 26, I'm sorry. In other words, how many agents do you have? How often do you go out? What prompts you're going out? Is it a sort of demand only situation where if you get a report, then you operate, or do you have something comprehensive county by county so that's sort of equitable across the counties? And also some explanation of why we've never seen from the DCC minor decoy operations. The state does tobacco minor decoy operations and it does minor alcohol decoy operations. It would only make sense that it would do marijuana as well. I think that would give the industry a lot more credibility if they were more involved in these minor decoy operations like we see for alcohol and tobacco. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last call for public comment on agenda item number 6, recommendations for future agenda items. Chair, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment? Oh, looks like we have one more. Marco, I'm unmuting you. You may now begin your comment.
Yama Consulting, a long time cannabis testing consultants and validators. There were 2 items I wanted to suggest. One more relating to laboratory testing, which I've heard other people make comments on. We've seen big improvements this year with the DCC shutting down known labs producing false data, business-friendly results, all these LA Times article references that people are talking about contaminated pesticides. But the comments people are making that we do not have a rigid system of qualification for accurate lab data. And those are steps that we've discussed in previous CAC meetings. So I'd like to suggest that as an agenda item. I think the verbiage that is correct is a comprehensive, either certification or accreditations by the DCC for valid methodologies that produce accurate data. And that includes people doing not only errors, but laboratory fraud. So that's one item I'd like to suggest. And in the remainder of my time, a second one, which is a system of, I know a lot of people have talked about the plant tag, 1 tag per plant issue. Another issue that I think is lower hanging fruit would be very helpful for everyone in California cannabis industry is a system to see how many plants are planted each season or quarter so that people can make predictions about how much supply there is in the market. Oregon and Washington very famously went through oversupply gluts that took years for the industry to sort of come out of. And
30
that
seconds.
is a second thing I think that should be put on the agenda for future items. That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you are now unmuted.
Hello,
John?
can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to a presentation and also a future agenda item for CAC recommendations and a presentation by the DCC on enforcement of hemp that I believe currently has a moratorium via the governor's executive order. But the enforcement of that moratorium, that ban, and what DCC is doing to enforce, it's still packaged as cannabis, oftentimes even with the universal cannabis, California cannabis symbol on the packaging. Much of the packaging is very appealing to children. It's available at the swipe of a thumb and many convenience stores, veterinarians, although they're not the real problem, gas stations, smoke shops, on and on and on. It is pervasive in California, even though it undermines everything that everyone on this call is trying to do. And I think it's one of the main problems with the transition of our industry to the regulated model in California. It presents an absolute health and safety risk, especially to minors. And it really only serves to undermine all of your hard work. So we need to see some more enforcement
30
there.
seconds.
And it'd be great to see what the DCC has already done and maybe get some recommendations from you guys on how they could do it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Whitlow, you're now unmuted.
So I made comments about recommendation topics. Do I need to do that again here? Can you just copy them over?
Nope,
I
we've already
missed it.
captured that comment, but thank you for checking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Paul and Susan, you are now unmuted and you each have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, this is Paul Hansberry. Susan had to take off, but I would be remiss if I didn't attend a Cannabis Advisory Committee meeting and bring up the subject of a cottage microbusiness license. I think that that's something that's been addressed a number of times at these meetings. There were subcommittee meetings on them. Nothing, there's never been any movement on it. And I think that the DCC has the ability to do some things that are more towards that from regulatory. There are some things that need to be done legislatively. I understand that. But there seems to be an appetite for it. And if they want to get a legislative appetite, the DCC, I think, needs to make the first step. One of the things they could do is there's a regulatory thing. In Mendocino County, 10,000 square feet is the maximum you can have. It's always been a home industry. It's always been done out of the house. But they put an emergency regulation in that you can't have any kind of cannabis operation in a house. The different things, cottage microbusiness that's based on the scale of the operation rather than considering it a large corporate enterprise, which is what it is today, would go a long way in keeping people in the regulated market. I know that
30 seconds.
half the people in Mendocino County that have applied for licenses have now gone out of business. 50% of the licensed people in Mendocino County are gone. 90% of the medical in the industry is gone. So I think we should revisit a cottage microbusiness so we can help to revive that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last call for public comment on agenda item number 6, recommendations for future agenda items. Chair, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Operator, thank you so much.
Public comment for agenda item number 6, recommendations for future agenda items is now closed.
Wanted to thank everybody for your suggestions, and we'll keep these suggestions in mind as we work for future meeting agendas. I did also just want to mention that on one of the comments that there is public data dashboards available that does have plant count and harvest data available for the state of California via the DCC. So I just thought I'd mention that as in response. But with that, we can move on to agenda item number 7. And I just wanted to thank all the members and the public and the DCC for all of your time today. We look forward to seeing you all again at future meetings. And please don't hesitate to reach out in between these meetings. So I appreciate all your energy and hard work on moving this industry forward. So have a great day, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
You.